computer. Back down to this computer. There we go. Okay. Welcome. What I'd like to do today is just run through the work we've been doing across the spring and into early summer to update both test and Rosettes, and just to give you an update on where they are. I will go in some detail through the ABRS tests. Many of you are very experienced instructors or coaches in your own right, and there may be some points where I'll have to defer and get back to you as to why we've made a change and where we have. I do apologise if some of it's not as clear as I would like it to be, but it is, I think, going to be clear enough. Okay, so I will just talk about some time resources, cover the ABRS test in some detail, and I'll talk a bit about workforce resources a little bit at the end if we have time. Turning onto the time resources essentially breaks into question care awards, ABRS tests, and Rosettes. We've designed them to be really flexible, and I'll come back to that as we go through. They're non-accredited training, and the reason they're non-accredited is to make them as flexible as we can for you to use with clients. And they do have a pass-through into workforce because the ABRS tests can be used as an entry into our CIC coaching awards. So they do have a crossover into a work stream for professionals. But largely they're designed to be for you to work with your clients. You can use them day to day. You can use them for staff and volunteers. You can use them as part of the question assisted services, which we really do have a number of people doing. We're doing them with homeschooling. We're doing them with alternative education. An awful lot. So in the period from April to September, let me just get rid of that. We did nearly 5,500 Rosettes and a whole ton of test there. So all shown on the sheet there. So we're roughly doing 11,000 Rosettes and about 1,500 tests a year. That's roughly what we're doing. Let me go past that. So let me just run through, just to remind you. We introduced 5 first-time awards for younger children this year. They've gone down really well. And if you use them and you would like more of different types, let us know. We introduced the first 5. Just take them and see whether people could use them. Bear in mind, we only introduce something if they're of use to you for your clients. If they're not, and these appear to be working. So if you've got other first-time things you would like, and let us know, and we can expand the range. We did expand at the start of this year the number of Rosettes, both dismounted and mounted. Question Care Awards have been running quite well in the background. I do need this year to review those. I haven't done that. I will look at the ECAs this year, but they really start age 10 and go up to start age 14, 10 to 14. The progressive rider tests, 18, 1 to 10. Equitation, I've changed it from stable management to care and welfare, and we will be changing the Rosettes from equitation and stable management to equitation, care and welfare as well, because I think that describes what we should be teaching. As I said, that's all non-accredited training. Non-accredited means that we're not doing it with an external validation body that will lead to an externally validated qualification. Let me just touch on the Rosettes very quickly. So we've got the first times. You see there's the meet pony, breasted pony, leader pony, sitting pony without a leader. As I say, if you've got some others you would like us to have, let us know through the office and we can look to increase that range. On the other Rosettes, we've got 18 care and welfare Rosettes and 14 ridden Rosettes. And as I say, supporting all sorts of things that you do as proprietors. We've also just introduced 40 key stage 2 worksheets that are linked to the stable management Rosettes. And those, I'll show you where they are on the website in a moment. Essentially, how they work. So if that's the care and welfare Rosettes. Let me take rugging. You'll find there is a worksheet on rugging, and then you'll see that we have a very slim syllabus for each of these areas. But what we've tried to do, not in all cases, but where it's linked to a specific part of the syllabus, you can see it's linked onto the worksheet there. And then when you look at the worksheet, it's got a bunch of information, some form of task, some form of teacher's notes that describe how you can use them. And often within there's also, if you've got kids of varying ability, there are some extended, and some of them explains how you can extend these to be more extended tasks. It then covers which parts of the key stage curriculum, the national curriculum, are covered by that worksheet, and then we provide answers. So there are 40 of those now in the website.
What's that?
So, and then to give you an example, please.
Oh, yeah, but she's not a physio.
Okay. So if you see here, I've put down 6 of the care and welfare Rosettes. And then what I've done is I've shown, so for Points of the Horse, there are essentially three syllabus items, and we've got 5 worksheets in that area. Grooming, we've got a couple of syllabus items. There's a worksheet in there. There's a worksheet in every single syllabus area, or every Rosette area, sometimes one, sometimes multiple worksheets. And again, I'll show you where those are. Now, a plead to you, if you've got worksheets that you're already using and you would be prepared to let us have them, we'll use those to extend the 40 worksheets, be more worksheets and beneficial to everybody. But at the moment, there are 40 worksheets covering the syllabus areas. So if you go into the website in the members area and go to test materials, and then into Rosette Awards, you'll find the worksheets now are listed in there, and then you can see these are the 40 worksheets we've got. You just click on that, it'll download it. It's free, free for you to use. If when you use them, you find there are things you'd like changing in them, just let us know. We've never done these before, so this is us trying to provide some resource that you might find useful. And I say we would love to put more resources into this area. And if you find things that you think should be changed in the worksheets when you come to use them in practice, then just let me know, and we can make amendments. What we'd like to do, if this becomes successful, is then do some Key Stage 3 worksheets as well. But we need to work out whether this is successful or not, because it's cost us a fair bit to just get to where we are today. Okay. So before I will open up, you're all muted. If anybody wants to ask any questions on the worksheets, please do so now, and then I'll move on to the ABRS awards test rather.
Sorry, just a point. When I've looked at the worksheets on my own elsewhere, I've noticed not all of the names correspond to the correct worksheet. So you click on it and it's downloading a different worksheet. So I don't know if someone just needs to have a quick look.
Let me go back through then. That's me being dull. So don't worry. I'll go double check them. I've got them all, and if they're not right, I'll go back and.
No, that's all right. I just downloaded the whole lot and renamed them anyway. But the great idea, and we're going to start using them for homeschooling. So thank you for those.
Okay. Well, if you find when you use them the thing's not right, and you get a great idea for another worksheet, just let us know, and we can develop them. I'm keen to try and make it as useful for everybody as I can. So we're not making any money out of this. It's purely to help you guys as best we can. Okay, now let's move on to the progressive awards. As you will remember, this covers Cushion Care Awards, Test 80 and Test 1 to 10. I've not touched the ECAs yet, and I will try to do that either this year or next year. But they are proprietor-driven tests. They are progressive in the sense that you have to do A before you move to B, before you move to C. You can't just dip in and dip out. They are split into equitation and care and welfare, and you have to do both in order to achieve an award at that level. They are trained and assessed in-house up to test 4, and then from test 4 onwards, you have to have an external assessor in to assess them. And the reason for that is they then start to feed into the professional work stream because they become an ability to get a coaching award. They're not formally accredited, which keeps them low cost. If I had tried to accredit these, and we did look at doing it, for every test you could have added a 0 to them, and we just didn't feel that was right for what is really a tool that you can use with clients. Okay. So as you'll remember, there's test 1 to 80 and 1 to 10. 80 is really aimed at younger or more nervous riders, and 1 to 10, I really would suggest is really from 10, 11 upwards, and it's from improving riders, but it does go from very basic skills right through to quite advanced riding. So what are the main changes? So to start off with, they had not been reviewed since 2014, so 10 years. So what I've done is I've gone through and I've put horse care and welfare front and center in the review. And that's and I've dealt quite closely with Rolio from World Horse Welfare to whether some of the practices we've been doing are right or wrong. I'll give you an example. Should we really be doing mains now, or should we not? That type of question. Widths. So there's a whole range of welfare questions I've posed to World Horse Welfare, and of course it's a very relevant thing given everything that happened in the Olympics and the whole social license question. I've also removed quite a lot of outdated language and actually quite a lot of outdated things. There's not many of us use jutes and rollers anymore. Oh, maybe there are a few, but most people don't use jute rugs and rollers anymore. So I've taken things that I think are not relevant out of the syllabus to make it more relevant. I've changed the language where I can. I've been clearer on safety, and so safety also features right the way through the syllabus wherever I can. There are less changes in test A to E. They weren't bad as it is. We have made some changes, but there were less. And I've made more significant changes in tests 1 to 10. In particular, in 1 to 10, I've introduced 3 areas. I've introduced horse learning theory, the pyramid of training, and the 5 domains of horse welfare. And they feature in various parts of test 1 to 10, either explicitly, because I'm asking you to train them and test them as part of the assessment, or implicitly, because I would expect you to introduce these areas throughout the training that you do with your clients. And then I've tried to keep a proper progression between the various tests, and I've tried to make sure the balance between each of the tests is right, so they're not over in one area and not in another. So that's what I've tried to do. So let me just take you through test A to E, equitation, and then I'll do the welfare. So in test A to E, those are the new tests. If I kind of summarize them, in A, it's really around position, halt and walk. In test B, it's really about mounting, walking, turning, and trotting. Test C is really about mounting, walking, trotting, and transitions. And then when you look across in test D, it's a bit of horse handling, changes of rein in trot, millimeter circles, and then in test E, handling, figures of 8, diagonals, figures 8 in trot, sitting trot, and then canter. So test A to E really takes you all the way from getting on a horse to cantering, and that's really the summation of A to E. And I haven't changed this hugely, but there is some wording change. There are some things I've taken out. For example, sitting trot appeared very early in the test, and I didn't think it was appropriate. A lot of people can't sit properly. But there are things that I would also expect to appear in here. I would expect you to be teaching, for example, in the pyramids of training, rhythm and that sort of stuff. If I then look at the care and welfare, this again hasn't changed hugely. There are changes, but but they're subtle. And so in A is about safety and naming, B is about leading and basic care, C is about preparing a horse, safety and welfare, the three F's, the freedoms. Test D is around tacking, untacking, rugging, and horse care. And then test E is about care in the stable and field. And I think those are all quite logical and quite logical progressions, and all relatively straightforward and sensible. Let me go to 1 and to 10, because this is more complicated. Again, this goes from starting to get on a horse, which is equitation test 1, right the way through to doing quite complex lateral maneuvers at test 10. So in test 1, I'm really looking at mounting, riding position, walk, halt transitions, rhythm, and you'll see there's a specific piece in here explain what is meant by rhythm in the test, basic turns, and dismounting. And I say I've introduced this whole concept of rhythm because I think it's so fundamental to doing anything. In test 2, we then move on to mounting, circles of walk, trot walk transitions. So initial work on diagonals, aids, and some elements of horse handling. In test 3, we move on to collecting and mounting your horse, use of a short whip, half figures of 8 and walk, circles and trot, sitting trot, changing the rein, working in the arena as a group, and then returning the horse to the stable and attacking the horse. So I then move on to test 4. Test 4 is about picking up and mounting, working in and school maneuvers under the assessor's direction, rhythm at canter, trot to canter trot transitions, canter, light seat, working in the arena at open order, and then a bit on the highway code, as to prepare people to be going out of the arena and into hacking. Test 5 then moves on to working in at walk, trot, and canter, and here we're starting to ask the candidate to do more of the thinking themselves rather than doing it under assessor's direction. The schooling whip, serpentines, a bit of no stirrups in the trot, transitions from walk through to canter and back to walk, changing the rein in canter, and then working over poles in a light seat. Test 5 then test 6, sorry, then goes on to create and write a working plan. So explaining to the assessor your thought processes, starting some aspects of lateral work, riding over poles, jumping a 60 centimeter small course of jumps, or preparing the horse for counter-canter. And throughout the tests, we don't really force people to jump if they don't want to. There's 2 streams through. You can either take a jumping stream or essentially a flat work stream through the tests. Then if I then move on to and then I've got the learning theories applied in this test, and the application of scales of training is in this test. I'm expecting you of course will have applied those as you've been doing your training of the candidates, but at this level, these people are approaching becoming coaches themselves, and I think they need to be able to explain learning theory and explain to the assessor scales of training and how they're used. In equitation test 7 and upwards required advanced skills. The assessment in the assessment, we're looking more as we move into test 7 at the candidate being able to explain a little bit more about how the horse is going, rather than just the individual's own ability as a rider. So test 7, we assess how a horse is going and in what exercises that might benefit them. We're lengthening of stride, doing more lateral work, working a field in a light seat at canter, with varying paces, and jumping at 70 centimeters, or doing a simple dressage test. Test 8 requires 2 horses, and here we're working in to include lateral movements, medium trot, exercises for counter-canter, discussing how each horse went, and then doing cross-country at 60 centimeters, or a prelim dressage test. And test 9 is a progressive warm-up with a range of suitable exercises, applying the scales of training to selected exercises that are appropriate to develop the horse, more lateral work, discuss what's expected in terms of training to do dressage, and then jumping at 80 centimeters or a novice dressage test. And then finally at test 10, again with 2 horses, more lateral work, linking of lateral maneuvers, the needs of show jumping and eventing, and then cross country at 70 centimeters or an elementary dressage test. So that's what we've done, and I'll come back to it a little bit more in a second. So that's the equitation tests. The care and welfare tests, at test 1, it's really basic safe horse handling and care. At test 2, it's tacking, hay, skipping out, bedding, horse measuring, that's horse markings. At test 3, it's a bit more on tack, tacking up and untacking, putting rugs on and off. Test 4, we're into mucking out, bedding, zoonoses, more on hay, rules of feeding, feeding charts, horse routine, and putting horses out. At test 5, we're starting to look at grooming, the 3 Fs, the 3 freedoms, farriers and shoeing, poisonous plants, daily health checks and catching horses. At test 6, we're into bandaging, boots and rugs, parasite control, response to ill health, including teaching people how they take the pulse, respiration rates, and temperature of a horse, horse types and conformation. At test 7, it's cleaning and storing of tack, preparing horses for events, including platting, bringing horses back into work, lameness and addressing minor ailments, and finally biosecurity. At test 8, we're then into feeding charts, feeding and diet, pasture management, transporting horses, and fire precautions. And as we go up the test here, we're starting to move more into a bit of stable management or managing stables. Test 9, we're looking at the 5 domains model of horse care and welfare, which I think is important. It's a new part of the syllabus. Things, studs, risk assessments, and stables of stable yard maintenance. And then finally, at test 10, we're looking at double bridles, non-ridden exercises, equine first aid, horse restraint, older horses, and the records you need to maintain if you've got a horse. So that's the syllabus, and we can come back and you can ask me some questions at the end. So just some quick points about the tests. They are endpoint assessments. So the assessor is assessing a whole range of training that's been done to get to that point. So you need to think carefully about the lessons that are needed in order to get to the point that an individual can be assessed. The early lessons, both AT and in lessons 1 to 4, they probably need to be one-to-one or small group lessons. But AT can be used as courses with a defined number of lessons. We've got some schools already do that. They'll do test A and they'll have 10 lessons and they'll sell that as a package. Once you get beyond test 4, it's difficult to use it in a course format because it becomes much more about the skill of the rider. And the skills become more pronounced and defined. So it becomes a little bit more difficult to use the test beyond test 4 in a course format. It tends to be more group lessons and individual lessons. We have got on the website some advice about how to set up an assessment day, and I'll show you what that is in a second. In terms of assessor registration, you do need to register, and there's a form again on the website. You don't need to do any registration for the Rosettes. For the ECAs and progressive rider tests, you do need to register. But for AT and 1 to 4, we're not looking for formal qualification requirements. We're looking for the proprietor who runs their school and knows their people, certified competence. And we look at it as an opportunity to involve even fairly junior coaches in doing the training and the assessing. All we do ask is the trainer and the assessor must be different. Test 5, 6 and above, and of course included in the care and welfare test is a lunge unit. We are looking for people that have formal qualification to be the assessor, either level 1 to 3, and really we're doing that because this can be the ability to go into our coaching qualification courses. And that's the test of registration. Let me just come out for 1 second now. I'll come back in a moment. So there are some badges. I'll show you those in a moment. I'll discuss that. Where do you find all this? You find it again on the website in the progressive rider test area, 1 to 10, A to E, the setting up the test day and some general information, all on the website. They've all been updated. All the test sheets have been updated. If you find errors, because it's, I've done most of the work, and I am dyslexic, so I'm renowned for making small errors. If you do find errors, do please come back to me and I'll correct them and re-upload. So I'll come back to, we can talk about them in a moment. I just want to touch on a couple of workforce resources just to bring you up to date. So I've looked at the non-accredited stuff. The level 1 to level 2 CIC, we've put some new dates up on the website at level 1. We're hoping to start a new site up in the Northwest. We're just coming to some agreement up there. There will be more level 2s going up on the website very shortly. We would like to get to a point where we deliver a level 3. We'd wanted to do that this year. It hasn't been possible just because the pressure of trying to get level 1 and level 2 working the way we wanted to. But next year, hopefully, we'll do a level 3 course. We have introduced, through Gullah Question, a level 3 diploma in equine assisted services. And I am hoping this year to introduce a membership category of equine assisted services for which you would need to be registered with the HEIR in order to do that. And I do strongly recommend this course. It's not cheap, but Gull have offered ABRS members a third reduction in the course fee in order to do it. And the first people have started to graduate off this diploma course. And it will allow you then to register on the HEIR, which is the Equine Assisted Services Register. And then we are doing a level 2 groom and level 3 senior groom apprenticeship with the National Horse Racing College. And we've just introduced a level 5 and level 6 with the Scottish Racing College, different levels just because of different nations, but we've rolled over an apprenticeship into the in the Scottish community as well. I'll click through that. All I was going to say there, we actually have had our first graduate from the apprenticeship scheme from one of our schools. I'm really pleased with that. We've got nine schools doing apprenticeships at the moment. Cover the diploma. The diploma comprises 5 units: care and welfare of horses in equine assisted services, care and welfare of participants in EAS, business and compliance, horsemanship and coaching. I think the real thing about equine assisted services is knowing when something moves from being well-being into clinical psychology or clinical care. And the real benefit of doing this course, it will teach you the dividing line between clients you can help and clients that you really couldn't be touching because you don't have the skills. And I think that's pretty crucial. On safeguarding, we already have the safeguarding course for questions. We will be introducing a safeguarding officers course this year in conjunction with the BHS, RDA and Pony Club. It will become a mandatory course. So anybody, every yard who's got a safeguarding officer will need to do the safeguarding officers course. And essentially, what that does is teach you about the culture you need, whereas a safeguarding course just tells you about what you as a coach to watch out for in safeguarding. I will try and also do some webinars on proprietor responsibilities. I've dealt with quite a few new schools recently to find schools are not really keeping tabs on enhanced DBSs, coaching, safeguarding qualifications, particularly when they're bringing staff in as contractors. You know, they haven't necessarily got all the right paperwork. And, you know, the law did change about 18 months ago to bring safeguarding in line with schools. So this is a pretty critical area, and you have got legal duties of care that I'm not sure everybody's fully on board with. So I will introduce a proprietors course. We will introduce the safeguarding officers course this year, along with our other member bodies, and then we've got the safeguarding course. Just some things on coaching. We did in 23, 21, 4 courses, 9 courses, 46 went through it. In 2024, we up to date. That's up to now. We've done 5 with 24. So, and we've got a further 6 courses planned. And say level 3 next year. Southwest and Northwest are our targets, and we would like to try and set something up in Scotland. So that's everything. Let me just stop sharing. I just want to show you one other thing whilst I stop sharing. So I did say, so those are the badges, the ATE badges. So I've done ATE, and I've done, I think in these at the moment 1 to 5. We get people. We did have people go beyond 5 last year. I think we had one person do a level 10 test. But we've got those badges. The other thing you should be aware of, I've got 2 booklets. I've done an ATE booklet, and in the ATE booklet, it sets out the syllabus, and you can download the syllabus, but in here it sets out what we expect instructors and assessors to be teaching and assessing. So if you're teaching ATE, you really do need to get from the office guideline book. They're a £5. You can get one book for your school, and that should do you. On 1 to 10, this has become a bit of a much bigger term. It was about 65 pages. It's now 130 pages long, and it covers pretty much, it's exactly the same, but it covers in huge detail everything within that syllabus. It tells you exactly what we're expecting to do. It gives you a huge amount. I mean, it's not a bad booklet in its own right as a reputation and care and welfare book. It tells you, how to do lateral maneuvers, whatever it is, whatever we're teaching, we've tried to describe it in some detail in the book. And that again is available from the office. I say it's quite a term. But you need to have that if you're teaching or assessing 1 to 10 or 18. So that's a summary. I will just stop recording for a second, and then we can then have some questions. So let me just stop recording.